Well, thank you very much for coming. My name is Shane Trimble. I'm the Director of Transit Planning for SRTA. And I have with me Joe Poirier, who's we're the consultant, Nelson Nygaard, who is helping us out on this project. And really what Joe will kind of go into the details of what we're looking for and what we're trying to do here. But a little history on the project, but is that we've been looking at the south end of New Bedford for quite a while, and realizing that perhaps where we're serving is not well matched to where the service needs to be, and that's essentially what we're here to look at, is make sure that the service we're providing is working for the people that are using it, and then also as a way to encourage more people to use the service when they can. So I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joe. We're going to go through a brief slide presentation, and then we'll turn the lights back on. I don't like having meetings in the dark, right? We want to be in the light and share our thoughts and comments and opinions on what we can do here. So after the presentation, Joe will introduce what the boards are about, and we'll take it from there. So Joe, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Shane. I'm Joe Poirier with Nelson Nygaard. Nelson Nygaard is a transit planning consulting firm, and we're working with SRTA on a couple different projects right now, one of which is the South End redesign. And so we have some slides here, and I'm going to flip through the slides on the screen, but we weren't sure if we were going to have a projector. So everything, I think the most important part of our conversation will be over at the boards, but we did prepare a presentation just in case we had a projector, and we do have one, but as you can see, it's not very powerful, so it's pretty hard to see. So if you have any questions about anything we flip through, feel free to interrupt me or save them for the end, whatever works best for you. And then we can also talk about everything at the boards, because all the sort of key information is on the boards as well. So, just a quick agenda of what we're going to talk about in this presentation and over at the boards. We'll give an introduction to this project, which is the South End fixed route system redesign. We'll talk a little bit about the timeline for the project, what's going to be happening when. We'll go over some of what we call the existing conditions for the project, which is basically the information that we've gathered so far about the South End routes. And then we'll talk very quickly about how COVID-19 has impacted ridership on the 3 South End routes. And then we can talk very quickly about each individual route and some of the things that we're seeing on each route. And then at the end we'll have we have a survey, we have a tablet at the table there where you can take a survey about the South End routes. If you don't want to take the survey, that's totally fine. The survey will also be online for several weeks, so if you want to take it from home later, that's great, and the survey will be translated into Spanish, Portuguese, and Haitian Creole. So if you want to take it in one of those languages, you'll be able to do that too. So just a quick background about the project. There are 3 SRTA fixed routes in the New Bedford South End. It's the 1, the 3, and the 5. And you can see them on this kind of light map right here, but they're also on the board, so we can go over them on the board after we turn the lights on. The 1 is the Fort Rodman that goes down to Fort Rodman, down County Street in Brock Ave mostly. The 3 heads down to Dartmouth to the Big Value Plaza. That's sort of the blue line on the left. And then there's the 5, which is a shorter route, which goes to the New Bedford terminal, down to the Price Right Marketplace, and kind of loops back around to the New Bedford terminal. So we're looking at these 3 routes in the South End, and this project is essentially, we're looking to redesign those routes. And the goals for redesigning the routes are, first and foremost, making sure as many people can use the bus as possible. So basically the goal is if more people are riding the bus, then it's providing more service for the community. So that's really sort of the overarching goal. We'd also like to improve operations on some corridors. As you may know, sometimes you see a SRTA bus, which is really big, coming down a street that's relatively narrow. It can be really hard for the operators to drive on some streets and to make some turns. And so there are safety concerns related to that. And then also, especially in the winter, it can make operations, can make it hard to drive the bus on certain streets. So we're looking to address any operational concerns as well. And then also, we're constantly thinking about, SRTA only has a relatively fixed budget. And so SRTA wants to make sure that the way it's spending its money is the most efficient way possible for the community. And that really goes back to the goal of making sure that the most people are able to ride the bus as possible. SRTA wants to be able to provide that mobility and that accessibility for the greatest number of people in the community. So the timeline for this project is essentially it's going to take place over the next couple months. There's this first phase of outreach where we have a survey, we're holding this public meeting, we're asking people, how do you use the bus? How would you like to see these routes redesigned, if at all? Are they working well for you as they currently are? Is no change needed? Are there places you'd like to get to on the bus that you can't? Are there stops that work well for you? Or is there a stop somewhere there shouldn't be? Or is there somewhere that needs a new bus stop? We really want to get that kind of feedback from everyone who's in the room and everyone who responds to the survey. And then we'll use that information to come up with essentially 2 different concepts for how to redesign the routes. And then we'll take those 2 concepts back out to the community and get feedback on them. Hear, what do you like about this idea? What do you not like about that idea? And then we'll use that input to essentially say, this is how we're proposing to redesign the routes. The goal for actually changing the routes and the streets they operate on and the stops and everything, we're hoping to have that finalized by the summer. And then you would see the changes sometime in the fall of this year. That's the rough timeline for the project right now. Any questions about that before I move on to?
Just, I want to make a suggestion, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
We take the number 1 bus, my wife and I take the number 1 bus a lot. But we have to take the number 1 bus from down by where the Gulf station is here, all the way down to the terminal, and then back down to Stop and Shop.
Number 3.
Oh, you switch to the 3 and then go.
Switch to 3 and then go down
I
to
was just
Stop
wondering
and Shop.
if you were changing this to go from Fort Warman all the way up to stop that much.
Not just true, but I think you'd pick up some new riders. And I think things would be a lot different if you just went straight down Cove Road.
Mm-hmm.
Take 1 bus out of the 3, rotate them out, so it's not the same bus all the time. And take 1 bus out of the 3, so you have 1 bus an hour going down, straight down Cove Road.
Okay, yeah, so a more direct connection to Stop and
Yeah,
Shop.
more direct connect. You don't have to go up and transfer, just, I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it totally makes sense, yeah. Yeah, this is exactly the feedback we're looking for. Yeah.
I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
I honestly do.
Because I'm
I
always
live on
taking the
that
bus
route.
to work.
You regularly.
I said once in a while I walk, but
Okay.
that's why I'm here, is I just want to see if the number 3 can just go up.
Okay, yeah. That's great feedback, thank you. And then we'll also...
That's why I'm wearing my work shirt, because I got out at 3:30 and I came here right away.
Yeah, okay, well, that's great feedback. That's exactly what we're looking for. Thank you. And we're also, if you stick around for a little bit, we'll have like some dots we can put on the board, which will stick that on the board
Okay.
together. Oh, yes, sorry.
Is there any protection for the elders when they're out there waiting for the bus? Is there any kind of, I don't know, because I don't take the bus, but I know some places I see that they have the little
Shelter?
shelter or
Shelters?
something. Yeah, I think that's what they would call it. But then like, say, I don't know whereabouts he said he was living, because I couldn't hear him. Say if he's living down the south end, and he's got to sit up there and wait for the bus in the rain or snow, or he can't go at all for this reason. And or even if it's a nice sunny day, if it's too hot, they need some type of shelter for them to be waiting for these buses.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because I think that's why you're having a lot of decrease in people riding the buses,
Mhm.
especially elders who need to be out. They need to enjoy this fresh air if they had shelter in some of these bus stops.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you right now, I think I don't know if it's a South Central where Russell and Christian Avenue, my brother's buddy Andrew, and we've been asking for years. One of the SRTA people did come to our meeting, and we asked for it, and this has been 5 years ago, for a stop for the elderly and the children, that the mothers come out of the playground and stuff to get on the bus instead of sitting there in the rain or the
Mhm.
snow or the heat. I think mainly, I think that where our elders, who I love, who need to be protected, is where are they at, and give them shelter so they can get out of the house.
Yeah, that's a great comment, thank you.
I live where there is a shelter, and it's heaven, okay? I mean, I don't have a car, I only take the bus, okay? And to be able to be in one of the few places where there is a shelter, you know, and when it's raining, snowing, you know, it really matters. To me, it matters a lot, it really does.
I agree. I'm in the same
Thank you,
position.
thank you, yeah.
Okay, yeah, and we can put some, we can also, if there are specific places that you think would be really good for shelter, we can put that on the board together.
In elderly senior housing that we live in, elderly
And there's
handicapped housing that we
Yeah,
live in,
yeah.
just down the road,
That's where I was-
across from the golf station.
Yeah, the golf
almost.
station, yeah.
There's a bus stop right there.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if
That's-
there was one right there.
And the trash right there too, and the trash
And
barrel.
someone's torn the trash down, I don't remember ever seeing it there.
No, I said the trash barrel, because when the people at the bus stop, they can't put their trash.
Yeah,
They put it all over the,
yeah,
Thing that you hang your purse on all the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
That used to have trash barrel there.
Yeah.
okay, so shelter,
Yeah.
yeah, those are good comments, thank you. Okay, well, yeah, those are great comments, and I think it would be really good, after the presentation, we can go up on the board and we can just actually note the spots down where shelters are needed, or, you know, the connections, Stop and Shop. So we wanted to talk a little bit about sort of the existing conditions for the 3 South End routes. So we can tell you a little bit, some of the basics of what we learned, just so you know you're on the same page as us as we move forward with this project. One, you know, when you talk about ridership, so where are people riding, what routes are people riding? The 1 has by far the most ridership of the 3 South End routes. Route 1 is the most popular route. And then the 5 has very little ridership. It's not that many people using that bus right now. And then the 3 is somewhere in between. So that's sort of the hierarchy of which buses are the most popular in the South End. The highest ridership stops in the South End. So the stops where the most people are getting on and off the bus are the New Bedford terminal is the busiest stop, you know, because everybody's transferring buses there. This library, this stop is actually the second business stop in all of the South End. I mean, it's not just for the library, people are going to homes and businesses
Yeah.
nearby. But this is a very busy stop. Stop and Shop is a really popular stop.
Welcome Street, I noticed a lot of people getting on and off at Welcome Street.
Mm-hmm.
And right over here on County Street.
Yeah, that
Where the
whole
streets-
stretch of County Street, especially where there's a lot of businesses, that's a really busy part of the Route 1.
Real busy going up County Street.
And then also Roosevelt Junior High. Trip Towers is very popular stop. Big Value Plaza down in Dartmouth, where the number 3 bus turns around, that's a very popular stop. And then St. Luke's Hospital and Price Right Marketplaces, that's the busiest stop on the Route 5. So that's right now, that's where most of the people are riding the bus, the South End, to and from. But there's lots of people getting on and off elsewhere.
They've taken away the number 5, and I think it was the number 4, used to go to Stop and Shop.
On Dartmouth
They-
Street.
On Dartmouth Street. And they don't
There
go
used to
there
be 3
anymore.
buses
They
going
stop halfway. And I'm not the only person, there are several people that are, many people that have said, wow, it doesn't go all the way, I can't get to where I'm going anymore. You know, I wish it went further.
And it seems like the Stop and Shop is also probably the most popular grocery store. It's the grocery store that most people are riding the bus to. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we can talk quickly about how COVID-19 has affected ridership on the routes. It's probably not a big surprise that ridership is down on all the routes because of COVID-19. But Route 5 has really seen the biggest drop in ridership. There's about 80% fewer people riding Route 5. So that's the route that's kind of taken the biggest hit in terms of people no longer riding that service as much.
You don't think that's because they changed that route? Because I used to go up Rivet and isn't that the 5?
That could definitely be related. You have to ask Shane, did those changes occur at the same time as COVID?
Yeah, the 5 was declining pretty rapidly in ridership before COVID, and during COVID
What's the street?
The Rivet Street bus,
They-
the number 5. So it had been losing ridership pretty steadily prior to the COVID pandemic.
So Stop and Shop and all of them, or
The-
they need something, there's a lot of people, because I go to Stop and Shop, and there's a lot of people over there.
Mhm.
A lot.
Do
And they're
they,
standing in the lane.
yeah, now, do they have coverage
No.
for people over there for the, when it's raining or snow?
At the Stop and Shop?
Yeah, the Stop and
I
Shop?
don't think there's a shelter there.
No, there
No,
isn't.
there's not.
I'm always
I think
standing,
they should.
Because
I'm
it's
always-
private property,
I'm
right?
always standing there and I have to take a
Probably
rain umbrella, a raincoat.
Or stand
The
up
bus
and
used to
do
pull.
the.
Yep,
The
yep.
bus used to pull
I'm here
in
all the time.
from Dartmouth Street and come straight into Stop and Shop and turn.
Turn.
And they would stop right in front of where the people could wait
Wait,
inside.
Mhm.
Now they're going down, around, and
Yeah.
coming up another street. I can't think of the name of the street
I don't either.
right now.
Oh, by that
And
big brick
coming in
building.
the
Yeah.
back, coming in the back way, and
Yeah.
you can't see the bus
Yeah.
through the wall.
Okay,
No.
gotcha.
Yep,
You can't, they're coming in the back way.
that's where 4 and 5 used to go, and 3 used to be in the front.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
They just changed that a little bit.
Maybe they should just have a special place for them to wait for the bus.
Yeah.
Instead of on that corner, 'cause like you said, you can't see them. Maybe have a place across from them, so they have, that little shelter, and they know where they're at. And these people can go into that shelter and wait for the bus instead of missing it. Because if the kid is down, down the little way, and they're walking up, they're not seeing them.
Yeah.
They'll take them up. I've seen it so many
Yeah.
times.
And so there's different ways, it's really good to hear that, good feedback. There's different ways to deal with that. And I think as one gentleman mentioned, it's private property, so it has to be in agreement with the Stop and Shop. If Serta wants to install a shelter, certainly not impossible, definitely something that can be
I
done.
can ask.
But there's also, it sounds like the bus used to go to the front where there's a big awning where you can wait and then you can see the bus
You go
coming.
inside between the
Doors,
doors,
the
and you
doors.
look right out of glass,
Okay.
and you can see.
Now I have to, because when I go to work, I have to like go up there, go to where the
You have to wait
U-Haul
outside in the
places,
winter.
Mhm.
and it's the winter, it's tough for me.
Yeah, yeah. So there's definitely different ways to get some shelter there.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
good feedback. We'll put it on the map for sure. And we can definitely look at that. Okay, so we can talk really quickly about each individual route, just to tell you a little bit about what we're thinking, what we kind of understand about each route. And then I think we'll talk quickly about how you can stay involved after this meeting, then we can go up to the board and we can all look at the routes together and talk about ideas and things like that. So the route 1, it goes down, basically straight down from the terminal all the way down to Fort Rodman.
Mhm.
It's a pretty straight shot. It's pretty direct. It mostly goes north-south. There is one big loop, and you can kind of see it on this dark projector, but to serve trip towers.
Mhm.
So, that loop is convenient sometimes in one direction, but, going back the other direction, it's not always convenient for people because it doesn't go back to trip towers on the inbound. And then for people riding further south on the route, they have to go right around the trip towers as well.
Yeah,
There's the bus turns around at the UMass facility down at the end of the route. So if any of you have ever ridden that bus, kind of turns around in the street there. So that's something that's not operationally it's safe, but it's definitely like the preferred way to turn a bus around is to have a bigger loop, basically. And then one of the confusing things about the route for some people is that when it goes inbound and outbound to the terminal, it goes on, I think it's Pleasant and Acushnet, so it goes on different streets, it's not on the same street. So for a lot of people, it's easier to understand a bus route if it just kind of goes up and down the same street in both directions. So that's also something we've kind of identified as, if there's a way to make the route better, that might be a place to start. There's the Route 3, which goes from the Serta New Bedford terminal, kind of heads out to the west of downtown, southwest, and then it goes to St. Luke's Hospital, and then it goes down, basically straight down Dartmouth Street. It pulls off of Dartmouth Street to go into Stop and Shop, then it keeps going straight down Dartmouth, and it kind of does a big loop
yeah.
around to the Big Value Plaza. So for people going to Stop and Shop in Big Value Plaza, that kind of like loop into the front door of the store, that's pretty convenient. But for some other people who are riding through, they have to sit through, an extra maybe 5 minutes of travel time that they might not have to otherwise. And then there's also, if any of you have ridden the Route 3 at night, it does a different route up by after St. Luke's. It kind of goes a little bit further to the west on Rockdale instead of on Roch. So this route has different patterns, 2 different patterns. And then there's the Route 5, which is really, if you were to draw it out as the bus drives, it's really a figure 8, which is, for a lot of people, it's kind of confusing to figure out like a figure 8 bus route. It's not, it's not the most direct route. It goes south from the terminal, then it turns around 180 degrees to serve Boa Vista Towers, and then it goes back down south to Price Marketplace. So typically, if you were to start a bus route from scratch, you would want it to go kind of like I said earlier, like basically straight up and down the street, so it's easy for people to understand. They get on the bus on the beginning of their trip, and then they get off the bus on the opposite side of the street. So that's one of the things we're looking at with this route. So that's sort of the gist of the existing conditions bit. So this meeting and then the survey, which we'll pass around, and there will be information online about how to take it if you want to take it at home or later, or tell friends or family about it. We're going to have the survey open for a couple weeks, gather information from the public about what works for them on the bus route, what they'd like to see improved on the bus routes, what they'd like to see improved. And as I said, there will be another public meeting next month to look at some ideas for improving these routes. So if you keep your eyes on the website, keep your eyes, if you use social media, we'll have information on social media. We'll also be putting flyers up in the terminal. There'll be flyers on the buses, is that right, Shane?
Yep.
On the south end buses about the next steps for the project.
Suggestion?
Yeah.
The flyers that have been on the bus, like for this meeting, the print is so small.
So too
You
small.
have to draw it right up in front of it to read it, and the buses are bouncing around,
Okay.
and they're going down the street, and you're
Yeah.
disabled, and you're trying to sit in a seat, and it's across the other side of the bus on a window, and it's so small and hard to read.
Yes.
I don't know, instead of trying to put all 3 languages on one piece of paper, use 3 largest pieces of paper, maybe, and a little bit bigger fonts,
Yeah, that's a really good point.
so it's easier to read.
Yes.
So,
I think that's a good point. Yeah.
Are you, on route, any of the routes, are you taking any bus stops out of them, or are you going to keep them the way they are?
We'll be looking to the public for
Okay.
input on that question. I would say it's certainly possible that bus stops could be removed, if that makes the route better. For example, if there's a bus stop that very few people or no people are using, you might not want to deviate the bus to serve that area. Or there might be places where a bus stop would be added.
I find County Street is very congested where the metros are. It's too congested. You have almost 3 of them there. And it's hard to drive. It's long, because I go down there a lot. And it's like stop here, stop there, stop this. And who wants to stop there? It's kind of a metro.
Yeah.
Especially County Street. It's not like from Mosier Street down to Captain Street. That's not a good area for anybody to get off of. And I think if anything, if you're going to take away, that's a good spot to take away. You know what I mean? I don't know if anybody else is going to be like,
A lot of people get on.
yeah, people do
in that
live there, but
stretch.
there's like 3 stops. You know what I'm saying?
The city is going to be reconstructing County Street, kind
yeah,
of
I
the
know.
lower end of County
Joy.
Street. So so brace yourself. It's going to be like Union Street downtown. It'll be a pretty major project. But as part of that project, we worked with the city DPI to kind of better locate some of the stops in there, so that they aren't on top of each other, and that they'll be located where there's crosswalks and just safer to move about. So that'll be coming as part of that project, and I think that begins either this year or next year. I'm not sure when the city's going to begin that road project.
We have no potholes.
So that's all the presentation that we had on the screen. But basically all the information we talked about is really on these maps that show the 3 routes on the boards. And we also have this kind of interactive activity where you can basically put stickers where you think there should be service or for connections, or if we want to talk about individual bus stops where you think there need to be shelter, we can do that. Basically this is our time to get like a little closer in with the routes. I'm happy to talk with you up at the boards, or we can talk more at the table, whatever you'd like.
And then Mandy has the survey, so if you'd like to take the survey here while you're here, you can talk to Mandy and she'll walk you through it. Or like Joe had said, otherwise it'll be posted on our website tomorrow or the next day, and you can take it at home at your leisure, whichever you see fit.
And if you have any questions once you read it online, feel free to give us a call if you need any help. We'll gladly guide you as well.
Yeah.
Can I say
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
My name's Alan from the Office of State Representative Tony Cabral, who actually represents this district in this area. Just wanted to know what part of the process are we in? Are we in the, because the overall, it's a redesign project. Is
Yep.
there a public comment period where folks can, is that going to be a thing?
Yeah, definitely.
Deadline where people can submit? Because these folks would know better than any of us, folks that actually use the bus routes, what works and what doesn't in terms of,
Yeah.
Adding, subtracting, what works, location.
Yeah.
Let this lady that she, in front of a lot of the folks, the demographic that takes the bus.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say a lot of, not everyone, I don't want to stereotype, but a lot of older folks. And some of them, their language is not English, the first language. And others it is, but older. To stop in front of a nightclub is kind of,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know,
So to answer a couple of your
If I'm in Boston and I'm a kid, I want to stop in front of the nightclub. Boston, Providence,
Yeah.
But here in New Bedford, that doesn't work quite the same way. Just want to know if these folks have an opportunity to weigh in. And you mentioned that they do. So.
Yeah, definitely. So I can, at the beginning of the presentation, I went over a little bit on the outreach and how people can stay engaged, and we can probably pass some information on to your office as well so that you can share with constituents, because the more people that provide input, the better. We are at the beginning of the process.
Okay.
This is really like the first meeting.
Right. Because I just found out about this today, that's why.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Starting this.
So this is the first meeting, and there'll be a period for people to provide comment of probably about maybe 2 to 3 weeks from now. And this is like really just hearing what works for people about the routes and what doesn't work for people about the routes. And so we might hear they work fine, or we might not. And then we're going to present 2 alternatives to the community. So it'll be like, alternative 1 will have certain routes and certain changes, and alternative 2 will have different routes and changes, and then there'll be another public input period for those 2 alternatives, and we'll hear from people, what do you like about this, what do you not like about it, and then based on that feedback, we'll develop what we call basically like the preferred alternative, which is like what we'd like to recommend changing, and so that would likely be decided by summer, and then the changes would likely occur in the fall. So it's still a good amount of time, and then the outreach materials basically will be using surveys, because we know, we want to hear from as many people as we can, including the riders, because they're really the people, as you said, who know the routes the best. Surveys will be available in English, Portuguese, Spanish, and the Asian group. So the opportunity for people who aren't super familiar with English to take it in a different language.
Yeah. When you're a city like New Bedford, and there's many cities like New Bedford in Massachusetts, you need to translate and have materials translated. In the past, that used to be an uphill battle, but times are changing. There's a lot of language access issues are being addressed, through the State House and everywhere else. So, do you have stats and numbers on ridership?
We do,
You
yeah.
might have a route where you can eliminate it because not too many people are. You know what I mean? And then there are others that a lot of folks Yeah, so I
Yeah.
don't know if that's gonna be part of the mix.
Definitely, yeah, we're looking at ridership, at the route level, we look at how many people use it at different times of day, and then at different individual stops. So at the beginning of the presentation, we kind of talked a little bit about how Route 1 is by far the most popular route in the south end. Route 5, there's not really very many people using that route at all right now, and then Route 3 is kind of in between those two.
And the times of the day and all that. Because sometimes the last bus you take, if you miss that last bus, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
In terms of, and then it's at that point that it becomes a safety issue.
And sadly,
So you
sometimes
need
it's
to-
an issue
yeah.
for me.
Oh, it's a big issue.
Mhm.
Like if I work after 5, I have to walk home.
And if I go to meet her, I have to leave 3 hours early to take a
On
bus
Saturday.
from here to the bus terminal down to the
Like-
end. Then I take, but same thing backwards. It takes, a long time on a Saturday,
To get home.
to get
there and get home.
and to get home.
Yeah.
Because I work
The whole
like,
day's gone.
Yeah.
this Saturday I work 11 to 5. Now because I have to work at 11, I have to get on like the 7, maybe the earliest bus I can because it's a Saturday. Or I walk.
Yeah,
And you don't go into work until 11.
Yeah,
You
but
don't start till 11.
yeah, so it's a lot of extra time.
a
for
lot of
you.
extra time for me to kill.
Yeah, so that's some of the responses that we've, or not, some of the responses you can pick on the survey are basically, like, do you want to see the bus run later at night? Do you want to see it run earlier in the morning? Does it need to come more often? Basically, we ask people to say, like, what's the most important thing to you about the bus? Because for some people, it's late night service, and for other people, it's, I just want the bus to come every 10 minutes so I can, like, just
Yeah.
hop on. It's different.
Like a
for-
troll.
Yeah, it's different for different people. Yeah.
But I would like this to get, at least get to work and get home.
Yeah, yes.
Instead of going to the terminal, and then trying to, like if I have to walk, I don't mind walking if
Yeah.
I'm by myself, but
If it gets too dark.
it gets too dark,
I
and
don't want you, I don't
he
want
doesn't want
to
me to
walk
walk
myself.
down from
Your paths in the city.
city. It's not good when I walk Cove Road.
Yeah.
I have to go on the walkway sometimes.
Walkway's a lot safer.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And you
See, I used to
you
work
still
on
have to
Kings
walk.
Highway, but I switched over here because this was closer for me to go
closer.
home and I could walk.
Yeah.
But I'm not walking in the winters when it's, I get out of work at 5 and it's dark. I'm not risking my life walking.
Yeah, or in the rain or
Yeah.
a really, really hot day. And it's,
Yeah.
it's a lot of times you might not
Yeah.
want to walk that far.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes on a Saturday, like she gets me out at 5. I punch out at 5. I have to be outside at 5:10. That's the last bus on a Saturday, and that's rough for me.
It's tough.
That's tough. I have to
Really
run to
tough.
my locker.
And once in a while, you hit 5:30,
I hit 5:30.
and you have no bus.
I have no bus.
Yeah. So it sounds like for you, like basically, if the bus were to operate an hour or two later on
Oh,
Saturday,
yeah.
that'd be a big improvement.
Oh yeah, I will.
Yeah.
It'll be for a lot of people at my work.
Yeah.
They were like, because some don't get out until like 10, sorry. So some don't get out until like 10,
Mm-hmm.
midnight. It's like they walk home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're open only until 10. So that makes it really tough for people who close on a Saturday, who closes at 10, and there's no more buses. They have to get a ride or they have to walk home around.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay. So it sounds like
So
Saturday.
I'm speaking for my workers who takes the bus and who walks and who wants, I've got to tell them about this bus meeting because I didn't know who was working and not working around this time, so
Yeah. Well, you should definitely tell them about the survey.
I will.
They should take the survey. and make it,
I will.
you know,
Who
move
takes
on.
the bus, I will.
Yeah, she doesn't go in now until Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the survey will be on for a few weeks, so
So-
yeah.
So, friends of mine who are not here today, for example, can still take the survey? and stuff?
Definitely.
Okay.
It's going to be online
All
for
right.
several weeks,
Okay.
so that you can share it with your friends, your family, coworkers.
right.
Yeah, we're hoping we want to get as many responses as we can. That's the more the merrier with the survey, and especially from people who ride the bus. Well, we have these boards up here with we've got these stickers that we do this exercise in different communities, basically to see where people are currently using the bus to travel to, and then places where they'd like to go to that they can't right now. So happy to do that with you all right now if you want to put some stickers on the map with me. We can also, I think it sounds like with this group, it'd be really good to identify like stops where shelters are needed.
All of them.
All of them, yeah. But maybe if you had this,
This is a stop at all.
yeah. I think
Yeah, there is.
if you had to pick the most important ones, just because shelters, are very expensive, so.
Isn't our seniors all important?
Yeah, and so,
Every stop they go on is important.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that one.
okay, well, I mean, all of them, that's good feedback too. But if anyone has like one, that they go to a lot that they think would be really good to prioritize, that would be, we could point that out.
Like that.
I want to go from
New Bedford South End, we decided.
Fort Lawman all the way
Then you're gonna hit okay
to,
next.
South Side.
Okay, yeah, so here's the stop and shop. Sounds like that, you work there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right here, yes. Yes. And I go across the whole building, then I go to the stop shop.
Yep, okay.
That's how I walk up. And I thought a bus would just go, I mean, what I did is the bus goes right up.
Was there
Go straight it up. And it'll be easy for her, it'll be easy for at the,
Yeah, and everybody in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
Shopping.
yeah.
Calling the office. Yes, it will.
That was a good idea.
Okay, so you're currently riding from.
She's riding